2012.
Are you gonna bother with this?
Any possibility, Steve, that would work? Or either one of those would work?
Steve will see this.
There you go. You're recording.
Okay, the meeting called to order of the WPCA April 5th, 7/11/2012, and we're in Town Hall here in New Hartford. The first item on the agenda is...
May I ask just for a second, just a technical question, that thing have a rechargeable, right, the little machine?
Yeah.
The recorder?
We're putting new batteries in it.
But does it have to be charged up like a cell phone?
Eventually. Not right now, it's okay.
Oh, it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
I have one too, so we're times two.
Sorry about that.
So item number 2 is the approval of the minutes. There are no minutes. Let's have to check with Stacy and the recorder, but so we're going to table that, pass that. Opportunity for public comment on agenda items. There are some members of the public here, but I'm not sure they're here to comment. Are we? Are we? No, good. 4, the Water Planet Report, Mr. Hoffman.
Tell you what, we'll glance through it if we have any questions for that.
It's gonna take you a while to read through all that stuff.
That's why I said we'll glance.
There's an extra copy for Christine if she wants it for your secretary. They do it. You've been in compliance throughout the last month. We got a few quotes. The first few pages are quotes. One's from Water and Waste, one's from Blake Equipment, and then one is from Aaron Associates. The Aaron Associates one is right now one of the most important quotes for you guys to consider. We had an inspection from DEP, and
Quote for what?
what's that?
Quote for what?
It's Aaron Associates. It's this one.
I know, but quotes for what?
And that it will be for hooking up the composite samplers. The original specs when you guys built the plant didn't call for composite samplers to be flow paced, and DEP is going to call you guys on it. So they gave us the heads up with an inspection, a note from DEP saying you guys need to comply with flow paced composite samplers, or they'll issue an NOV, notice of violation. That is pretty important. You guys don't want to get an NOV. The other two quotes are for the upgrades at the pump station, Prospect and Greenwoods. You guys requested quotes for the control panel and the alarm dialers. Right now, Water and Waste is the cheaper of the two quotes, but Water and Waste has not included a few things. My suggestion is we hold off on this for a little bit until we give them an opportunity to either amend their quote or we throw out their quote because they didn't do what we asked. A couple other things that are going on. We had the parking lot collapse, as most of you probably heard. You had a pretty good water leak. It saturated the parking lot. The parking lot collapsed when we brought in the sewage trucks. And it took quite a bit of work and digging up the parking lot to fix the 1-inch water line that came from the street into your new operations building. C.H. Nickerson was hired. They repaired the leak and backfilled the hole with stone dust. when they did the repair, the asphalt plants were not open yet. Now we're just waiting for the, asphalt company to come out, measure up what they need to, repair the parking lot, and then that'll get done. Hopefully, it's gonna be within the next week or two.
Why would it collapse like that? Bad poor compaction?
What's that?
Why would it collapse like that? Poor compaction?
No, you had an actual leak in your 1-inch water line. Looks like they grabbed it with a backhoe. Somebody grabbed it with a backhoe. It was bent in a spot. We got a lot of pictures at the plant.
So you mean
Was this
the
the-
water coming out of the leak created a sinkhole?
Exactly. Exactly, just softened the whole, an area 4 times the size of this room.
Was this the water leak that we were talking about a few months ago? Remember there was a water leak and you were trying to find it and you didn't know if it was on the building?
No, no,
That's something
we
different.
found that one.
So
That was something different. That was the odor control.
is C.H. Nickerson being paid to do this, to repair this? Doesn't follow, I don't know when they moved out, when their warranty period ends.
Yeah,
what
Steve
year.
went around, and Steve, you wanna talk about that?
I went through the contract's about that thick,
Yeah, yeah.
and I went through it last night.
Mm-hmm.
The warranty
And,
ought to be in the front.
The warranty was in the front, it's for 1 year
Mm-hmm.
from date of completion. Acceptance of the work and any designated portion thereof is substantially complete. Any defects in workmanship or performance of the contractor, blah, 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 for 1 year.
When was the completion date?
It was,
I'm just curious.
October 2010, I believe.
It's over a year
It's been
ago.
over a year.
Okay, but there's actually, you can see the damage to it that it was caused by a piece of
Yeah.
equipment.
Yeah.
And
Plus-
Nickerson didn't wanna do anything about that.
But we haven't dropped the ball yet, we
Yeah.
had to get the thing replaced.
Yes.
So we haven't said yay and we haven't said
Okay.
nay.
Who
Right.
was the, Oak, who did this one over here?
Hemlock?
Hemlock, maybe?
Hemlock quoted us, $1,500 a day
To do this
to
repair.
do the repair. But they needed, some substantial call before you dig information.
How were we
So-
getting water if the water line was punctured?
It wasn't
We
broken,
weren't.
it was punctured.
Right.
It was
Well,
leaking. It raises a whole host of questions. I think that the people who took the pictures, Steve, maybe you could go back, maybe you could, if you need to call a meeting with the Nickerson people, you gotta sit down and look at the pictures, because something is going on, we don't know quite what. I mean, if the pipe was bent back in October of 2010, and that caused a small leak, it's kinda interesting why it took until, March of 2012 for it all to puddle up, because the water, there's been a steady draw of water through that pipe for a year and a half. Now, it could have been that the compaction wasn't what it should have been, you know what I mean? But who knows? But something is going on.
It sounds like you probably had a steady erosion that wasn't particularly, that was slow but steady.
Right.
And when it got to a point, it just collapsed.
What,
That's what it usually does.
what had happened was the hole was about the size of the pen tip. And the hole, you have a sewer line that's buried below the water line, and you had a water line come in like this. The water line's leaking, water's gonna seek least path of resistance, which is the stone buried under the sewer line. So you could fill this whole building up before you start to saturate the ground. And where the leak was compared to where the parking lot collapsed was about 15, 17 feet away. So it took all that time, once that ground, once it got so saturated it just couldn't take it anymore, started to come up through the top of the ground, because that's a really, really low spot at your plant. And then as soon as that weight of that truck backed up, that was it. It found that void and just sank, and split your parking lot. That thing, in my opinion, has been leaking since they built that plant. There's no way it wasn't. It was absolutely 100% grabbed by a backhoe. I got lots of good pictures. As soon as they cut the pipe out of the ground, the pipe went in the back of the truck, never to be seen again. I got very, very good pictures. You can see a scrape along the copper pipe that's about this long.
Well, what happened to the pipe?
They took it away,
Who took it?
Nickerson.
nevertheless, we have pictures of it, we'll follow up. And if Steve, if you'll do that, and if it needs a meeting, more of us, or a meeting here at the next regularly scheduled meeting, then we should have the meeting and do the pictures and advise them of the issue.
How much was the cost? How much have we racked up so far, and what do you think
I
is?
have no idea.
They wanted $80 a day, or $80 an hour, $135 an hour for the excavator. So it was about two and a half days. That didn't include material for the pipe repair.
Yeah, could be anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000.
Has the work been done then?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
except for the
Except
pavement.
for the,
Pavement.
But we had to do the work.
Right, I
Probably
understand.
like 10, 12,000.
Yeah.
I'd say you're around 10 grand when they get done paving. Paving's not cheap. Paving's gonna be more than what it costs to dig it up.
Right. And so you know we're not gonna do the fancy paving.
Oh, no.
I talked to the guy about it, we're not gonna go.
No, we're gonna do
Just the stuff that needs to be paved, we're
yeah,
not
the
gonna
Z.
redo, make
Yeah.
it square and nice.
no,
They
they
didn't
wanted to
swear it out.
It's
originally,
not an art piece down
they
there.
wanted to saw cut it.
Right.
They
we're
were
not
trying
gonna
to
do that.
talk into saw cutting that, I said, no. Why? It's a parking lot.
Okay, is that, that's where we'll go with that?
For that, yes.
Yeah. Jason, I don't understand these two,
CLMP?
no, I don't understand these two quotes. I don't understand, your report that says Greg Mataski from the DEP conducted a plant inspection, the town will provide the report. Is the DEP report in here?
No,
Okay. Do you have a copy?
no. What they did was they sent us an email that said, I can get you, forward you the email if you'd like. All it says is, thanks for meeting with us. Please have the composite samplers installed as we discussed, a report to follow, which means 4 months from now.
Okay. Now, the
That's-
composite, flow samplers, this is on the second page of your report, AA Sean Murray.
Yep.
Please
Please,
assume $1,200
$1,200
for Sean's visit to start.
right.
He will be on site. Can you just tell us what those who don't know,
Basically, you got,
what is a sampler flow case?
you have a sampler right now. It's its own piece of equipment. It has a tube that sticks in the water, and it takes a sample once an hour, 24 hours. We need that every week. What they want is on the influent where your water comes into the plant, they want it flow-based, which means we have wires that run off our flow meter. Those wires from the flow meter need to talk to the computer, and the computer needs to then talk to the sampler to adjust the sample rate. So if the flow coming into your plant is 50 gallons a minute, it'll take a 50 gallon a minute sample. If your flow increases to 150 gallons a minute, it'll take a 150 gallon a minute sample. The tricky part is the programming of the computer. It's how much do they have to do to write into the computer to make the computer talk to the flow meter and the sampler. It's not just that easy.
Question for you.
Yes.
These weren't flow proportional to start with?
Nope. They put
Is
all,
it in the original contract? Do we know? It should be. I mean, DEP's been asking for flow proportional samples for
20
15,
years.
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah. So I don't see why
Asking or requiring?
requiring.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's been
It's
around
not
a long
something they
time.
just thought up.
It's not something new, so I'm wondering why are we,
How much is this all gonna cost?
Well, he's gotta get into it and see actually where we are. Like, he's not,
What do you mean, where we are? I'm asking.
well, we are assuming we have the right 4 to 20 milliamp signal wires going back and forth. He's gotta confirm all that. So basically what he's saying is he's, for $1,200, he's gonna come there for the day, figure out what we gotta do, and get started.
Kenny, is the Bach out of business with respect to, going back and looking at what was in the original, specs? Can you kind of follow up through the Bach people there about this issue and get any details that you need from Jason? Because if it was in the original, construction specs.
Okay, that would be with Nickerson, right?
Well, it's gonna be in the as-bills somewhere, and there's a copy of the no?
No, it would be in the specifications.
No, you-
The specs of the
Not the
computer.
as-built.
Technical specifications.
No, because that's more construction stuff? It's not gonna be in the computer now? Okay.
That's all in.
So
it's
where
all-
would, now where would it be?
It
Where
will
would you-
be in the technical specifications in the, section on, not HVAC, but on, devices, measurement, devices, et cetera. There's a whole section
Mhm.
on the instrumentations and controls, I&C.
Should be in the original
I agree.
bid documents.
It should, and it should say it, any engineering firm should have made sure that that's what it said. So if it said it, then somebody needs to fix it. The original guys, whoever they are, whether it's your
Well,
computer instrumentation guy or whether it's Nickerson getting a 4 to 20 milliamp signal to it, somebody's supposed to have a sample there, I mean,
well, there's a counter argument to that. And by the way, I'm gonna disclose, I represent Nickerson, as a client, in the law practice, so I won't, just so you know, I won't comment precisely on Nickerson, but there's a counter argument to that kind of argument, that the contractor has to pay for it, and that is that you would have had to pay for it anyway. Now, there may be some damages associated with it that are over and above that. But we call it the golden doorknob, issue, where the guy puts in a silver doorknob and the plans say, well, it's supposed to be golden. He says, my mistake, here's your golden doorknob, but pay me for it, because you would have paid me for it anyway. So we gotta just figure out, let the guy figure out what's missing. And then we should look at the spec.
Yeah, just to satisfy our curiosity about it. And then secondly, that's gonna lead into another issue on the agenda, which is the remaining USDA grant funds, whether we have any or not. And if we have any or not, we can probably easily, because it's within the original technical specifications, and if the USDA allows us to use that money, and there is some left, I'm sure we can get it out of those remaining grant funds.
What was
I'll
that?
double check.
Was that, what did you call that, that they have to do?
They need to have a proportionate flow-based sample, a
what-
flow-based sample.
Is it, Mike, is that what we call it?
Yeah, you have to get a 4 to 20 milliamp sample signal from your flow meter to the sampler.
Mhm.
That's all you gotta do.
Okay.
And it should have been done. I'm not saying whether it was done or not, but it should
Yeah,
have.
okay.
I mean, like I said, it's been 15, 20 years they've required it.
So.
I don't see how it got passed by not having it.
So I think the issue for us is to approve this work, obviously.
Yeah.
DP has asked us to do it, we need to
Yeah,
do it.
we need to do it and then we need to figure out who messed up last time. You know, that's all I can say.
Yes.
Okay. So, is there
Gotcha.
consensus that we move forward with the fix with respect to the sampling?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, there's a motion made by Mr. Rosengren, seconded by Mr. Blair. And, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Basically, going back to the report, you got two things here. They both appear to have something to do with our Prospect Avenue pump station.
Yes.
And the second one has to do with Prospect Street and Greenwood PS control panel. Are these two different things, or are they the same thing that these people are bidding on? What are
They're,
these two
they're
things?
trying to bid on the same thing.
They're trying to bid on the same thing.
That's right. I mean, when you look through this, it's very convoluted and frankly pretty embarrassing. I wouldn't put anything out like this. Basically, Blake is gonna do Prospect Street, do your new control panel, and also include your alarm and antenna kit at the Greenwoods pump station with a 1-year service agreement, and it's for a cellular alarm system. And do away with all that. You got a bunch of different things going on at Greenwoods. You got an antenna trying to talk to Prospect. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That was the original idea, was clear up these control panels, clear up the alarm situations. With water and wastes, all they talk about is basically using all your existing equipment except for the control panel, and then making the radio at Greenwoods to try and talk to the new install at, Prospect Street.
But I'm
That's not the way to go.
Confused, I haven't heard about this issue before, have we talked about this?
Yeah, I guess you guys talked with Grant and Judy when they were here at that meeting and
Well,
asked
the
them to
the
get.
history is the Prospect Street pump station has been very, very troublesome over the last 2 to 3 years. A lot of it has to do with something beyond my ken, but it has to do with this control panel. It just goes out at a drop of a hat, the red light comes on, we pay non-routine costs at 3 o'clock in the morning to come out, there's nothing wrong, we turn the panel off. We've got some lousy, it seems like we got a lousy pump station, and what we said last month was to Grant, can you tell us what kind of a pump station upgrade we should need? And I guess that is I know very little about this, you can help me out, is something that does go cellular, as opposed to this control panel. But I don't know how we get educated about a change to a cellular piece of equipment as opposed to a new control panel. I don't know how we get guidance on that.
Well, you got two different things there. You
Yeah,
got
right.
control panel,
Yep.
which is controls the motor, it'll send you alarms, things like that. But you have to have it send something. So I think you're looking at two different things. You're looking at an auto dialer of some kind that'll go to a cellular phone, is that what it is?
For just the Greenwood station.
Okay. Now how does it go from the other station?
Prospect Street.
Prospect
You
Street.
have a phone line.
Okay. So we
So
have a
you-
designated phone line
For
and that
Prospect.
runs to the plant or
Right.
something?
And right now at Greenwoods, you have a RTU tower
Mhm.
that's facing in the direction of Prospect, and you have a very, very extremely old PLC
Mhm.
trying to talk to each other. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
Alright.
Blake was astute enough to go out there and figure out that trying to keep them talking to each other just isn't gonna work. That's why they included the price to put in a new dialer, a cellular dialer, instead of having you guys run another phone line and install another phone service, use a cellular dialer just at Greenwoods to be done with Greenwoods. Then Greenwoods is set.
Okay, but I
You
think,
still have to replace the control panel for the pumps
right,
at Prospect.
I think you need to break it into two bids, one to replace the motor controls and one to talk to the other one. Cause I mean, if it's $3,000 to make the cellular talk, I don't know if it will be, something like that. I mean, what's a phone line? 30, 40 bucks a month? Where do you make the assumption it's gonna be just as easy, just run on the phone line?
What does water and wastewater equipment cover? Do they cover just the control panel?
Yes, it looks like the
Yes.
motor controls,
The
that's what
motor
it looks
controls.
like.
Just the rotor controls at Prospect?
Well, the alarm controls also.
Yep.
They're all on the same, the whole thing. That'll start and
Yep.
stop the pumps and
Right.
send any
The
alarms.
control panel at Prospect only then?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, so that's a separate thing to do, and
Yes.
they're claiming, or they're proposing.
$7,100.
51, right?
And you look at Blake's,
Blake, what is Blake?
they're doing the,
Same thing
basically the
plus.
exact same thing, plus a new dialer, a new alarm dialer
at
for another
Greenwood-
1,000,
At Greenwood.
yeah, more than $1,200 more.
But you said you didn't like the way these proposals came in.
Well, I didn't like the way water and waste came in, because water and waste neglected to address Greenwoods. So if you guys were gonna mandate a couple quotes, then we would have to throw out water and waste. They didn't do what we asked them to do.
Well, they could add to what they.
Exactly.
Can I ask a question? So does Greenwoods need to talk to Prospect Street, or
No.
is that just a way to get it to the plant? I mean, are we just
There's-
trying to get both lines to go to the plant?
There's no alarm dialer at Greenwoods right now.
Okay.
All it does is an alarm relay, pulls into contact, sends a signal to the computer. It's not even a PLC. All you have is a computer board. You don't even have it in anything. It's just sitting in there on the floor of the panel. And then that takes a signal, sends it to the antenna, and the antenna talks to the same exact setup, which is over at Prospect.
And can I be clear about what Greenwoods is? Is Greenwoods that little tiny thing with those 2 houses on it?
Yes, exactly. which I'm not sure on the easement, we have an easement to get up there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the utility easement is to run a phone line to that.
Is that the one right over here?
Uh,
Going up the hill? My mechanic's backyard?
Your mechanic's backyard.
Okay,
Yep.
there you
alright.
Okay, so
Maybe he
what
could
do
go out
we
and
do?
fix it.
He could fix it.
So what is your suggestion that we do?
Hold off. Hold off.
So what?
We get more clarification and we try and bring in one more quote.
Yeah, put it out to bid again in the right way. Talk to Mike here about it, he knows a lot about it,
Well, I think it came out fine in this aspect of it, but I think you need to add the second part to their quote, or break it into two quotes. I think I'd rather see it in two quotes, but that's just my opinion.
We can do that.
It
I
might
can do
cost you a
anything you'd
little
like.
more for that, I don't know.
All right, so I would suggest we move off of that one, table that one.
yeah, Jason's gonna come back with that.
Yeah, we can't do,
Absolutely.
I don't think we can do anything with it.
I'm not suggesting you do. Back to the report. CLMP, CLMP. You guys have had some major problems down at the 219 pump station. Very, very glad you guys did that upgrade last year, because if you hadn't done that upgrade, I'd be sitting here today telling you need 2 more pumps. Basically, we had an alarm. 219, alarm's out, says we got a high level. Ted gets down there, I get down there. We're single phasing, which means we have 3 phases of power coming off the poles by that bridge, the 219 bridge. We call CLMP, CLMP comes out, resets one of the transformers. We leave, everything's okay for 10 minutes. We get another alarm, high level alarm. Now we have to call pump trucks in. We got CLMP coming. The second part of the problem after the phase loss was over voltage. You guys are getting like 254 volts. I only have 230 volt pumps. You're way out of your range for the pumps for voltage. So to make a very long story, long drawn out story, is CLMP has been running around town for the last week and a half trying to figure out what they can do to fix power around town. They used to send all their power from Route 44 in Canton, and then they shut it down there, and now they send it from Canton up this side of town. Well, by doing that, they've changed voltages. So they had 4 crews out working to try and adjust your voltages. Now, the good news is you guys have pump protection that we installed on your pumps when we redid that 219 pump station. That pump protection saved your pumps. If you would not have had that, you'd have burned out the same thing that happened to the last pump we had to buy.
But are they going to fix this problem?
Well, they're working on it.
Okay, so it's an ongoing.
So it's a CLMP
That
issue.
pump
It's
protection.
all
that's-
CLMP, but now I gave you a number here because we got a lot of overtime involved with this.
Yeah, we're gonna put a claim in
A
under
lot
the
of
CLMP.
overtime.
I'll put it in. I'll
We've
put the
been-
claim in.
Back and forth to that station a lot over the last week and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And, you know, I have my theories, not a lineman, but I have my theories why they're adjusting voltages around town. Because they have lots of burned out transformers and there's not a big stockpile of them left since the October storm. So they're increasing voltages around to try and compensate. And the transformers can't handle it. That's why they're popping transformers and having to reset them.
So in the meantime, this may occur again.
Absolutely.
In between now and the
We
next
actually left the generator down there so we can run off generator so you guys don't have to pay Russ's septic to come pump. He pumped a lot of liquid out of that station.
Good idea.
Okay,
Now, what are they trying to do, put a limiter or a clamper to clamp down the voltage?
Yeah, but basically what they had to do is they went up past Dunkin' Donuts, up that road,
Yeah.
quite a ways, it was a few miles. And they were increasing at one of their substations and trying to decrease it, while they had other crews scattered around town all taking voltage readings.
I saw them working on it today.
The best they could get me was like 235, 234, which is a few percentage higher than I'd like to be, but we're not tripping off the pump, so we can live with it until we trip off the pumps. It happened the very next day, we went back out there and I put my voltage meter on and I was back up 248, 250 volts, and the pumps just, they can't do anything with that type of power. So we had supervisors, we had, like I said, we had 4 crews out there, and I think you guys are gonna need to hold their feet to the fire in a big way. It's gonna be, it took us 30 or 40 phone calls to get a supervisor on site before we could start getting any answers.
And why do you say in your report you recommend cutting down 2 of the
You know
pine
those,
trees?
I don't know if you guys, there's those 2 pine trees that are right by those transformers, and you got some big limbs. Somebody actually climbed up there and tied a piece of string around one of the limbs to keep it from falling on the lines. Imagine, I don't know who did it, but.
That's the state.
See, I thought last year, maybe last summer, there was a meeting Dan Jerem sat in on. He was gonna talk to the highway crew about possibly getting those down when they replaced those, remember they replaced those 2 transformers for us last year?
Yeah.
So
Well, they
he
replaced
thought,
them because they blew out
well, and also
Yeah.
there was limbs on the lines
at that time.
at that time, so what they did was they topped some of the trees, but they didn't cut them down, so now you got limbs reaching out over, they're basically, they need.
Yeah, but that's not the town, that's the state.
See, I thought that was the town.
State has from the center line to the edge of the road, they go in quite a ways, and I believe that would be the state.
Okay.
Or CL&P.
CLP,
Yes.
they
If they
wouldn't
have an
touch
easement.
them, they wouldn't touch them.
They're too far away?
Yeah, they're more like on your easement for your pump station.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I will make a note to email.
It's just something-
the selectmen about figure out whose trees
Yeah, I mean,
they are,
it's-
because I don't think we can go touch trees without knowing that.
Well, we can't, they're too close to the power lines for any of
Too
us to
close to
do,
the power lines, CL&P should have the right to cut them,
even on private.
even on private.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
come
they
on.
may do it if you ask them. Absolutely.
We did, when I had the supervisor out there,
You wouldn't
I
cut-
stood right there and said, can you take those 2 trees down? He says, that's not us,
They
that's
might
the
not
town's."
take the trees down, but they'll take the limbs down.
Well, there you go. We'll give him another call and ask.
Okay, would you do that for me?
That I know.
Thanks. Okay, Jason, thank you.
Sorry it was so much.
That's all right.
We're trying to
We
keep
set
it
aside the
streamlined.
first Thursday of every month for this type of session. I won't be disappointed. We have the United Water Report. Alan's not here. I think the only thing that was kind of jumps out on you is a mention of accounts receivable on page 2. There's been some progress made on that, so without further ado, let me just jump to delinquent accounts update number 10, because David's the guy that put this in play. Unless there are anything else that anybody sees in the monthly report from United Water.
Where's
That they'd like to bring up.
the report?
He emailed it to us all.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
he did.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Yeah, I gotta get, Mike,
We gotta get you in the loop,
I hit a button to do emails, and then it kinda goes to Stephen, and then he gives it to Kenny, because Kenny only has a fax, but I just have never, I'll get you in the little, whatever you call that.
That's fine.
A wiki, a group, I don't know what it's called, but I'll put you in there so you'll get this thing.
That's
I
fine.
didn't get an email from Alan's.
Yeah, it was this afternoon.
Yeah, it was pretty late,
I was gonna say what time.
Really late.
3:30, 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I had left for it.
Okay, so David, you wanna pick it up?
Sure, I think I found my true calling in my debt collector.
Lord, you got a lot to do with debt collecting.
It's-
You got a long way to go here, buddy.
It's exciting. The chart that I, the only problem with the chart that I handed out is it doesn't show the first column with the names of the accounts. And the reason for that is simply a technical one.
Any other copy?
When you email, there you go. When you email these reports, which I get from Computel, when you try to print them out, it takes some skill to get them all out on the page. But So you're missing the names of the accounts, but you can see what progress we're making, chipping down on accounts, not all of them, of course. And you'll see on the last page that when we started this exercise, February 22nd, 12, there was 88,000 in delinquent accounts and change. Now we're down to 66 and change. So we've collected about $22,000. Significantly, we account for, I believe, it's the restaurant down on 44. The one that owed us started with an account.
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo.
You see, 14,854 is down now by $4,000.
He continues to pay.
Promised us to pay us $2,000 a month, so.
Okay.
That's that. I'm working with Linda. She is making calls, and working, behind the scenes to get this money collected.
I have a question on that number 2, sending $225 total a month for 3 months. Do they have to pay the current bill? In other
We don't
words,
know
if
who
they're,
this is, Kenny.
Yeah, I believe they do. I believe
That's what
it's on top.
that's what they said, that was on top of when we talked about
That's
adding
what they
this.
said.
in other words, it's wearing. That's wearing.
Okay. They,
That's not good for us, by the way, $150.
right.
No, well, it doesn't, no, it isn't, but what I'm saying is if they're paying us $150 a month, are they keeping current with the current, are they paying the current bill in
What
full?
you're saying, and I don't know. I don't know. They should be paying more than $150 a month. I don't know what's going on
That's gonna,
with that.
by that, you're looking at many
Years.
years to get that.
I don't, I will talk to her about that, because that's not fair, you know, $150 a month.
this?
They have renters
What?
there, they have the big antique place,
No.
right?
Yeah, there's a restaurant or something, well,
That's what
There's
it-
there's 6 of them.
there's a salon there now.
There's a
and-
big,
There's
in the
6.
back,
6
there's a
users?
big,
Or six
Yeah,
fence
about-
rentals.
place and dirt place or whatever.
You got the landscaping, you got a,
Oh, Gary Patnode, yeah.
okay, you got a salon, you have a car rental place, you have a rental for boat storage, and you have a
Tanning?
restaurant, and then you got the antique shop.
Mm-hmm.
Does it all come through 1 meter, Ken?
Yes, they were supposed to split it up, but they have never done that.
So the landlord owes the bill.
Yes.
The landlord owes the bill.
Well, he's gotta pay more than that, though.
Oh, I agree, I'm just,
No, no, I wasn't
Yeah.
saying you had
Yeah.
anything to do with that, I just,
but the landlord is supposed to split the pipes up so each unit has a meter.
see, I like it better if the landlord is the obligee.
Well, I agree, but according to when Ray was here, that's the way they wanted it set
Well,
up. but-
let me,
Or they could have one main meter and
yeah, let me
several
make a
sub-meters.
suggestion
I'm
about
not,
this
you know.
specific thing here, Black Hammer LLC, and, the future, and give Mr. Rosengren, more opportunity to practice his encore career.
Now, you have another one here where, let's see, maybe $50 a month.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it, Kenny.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, here's the problem we have. We have a set of regulations that say if you owe more than X amount, then 20%, you have to put X amount down and go from there. And Linda Rocca has tried to do the best she can, and some people complied and some people did. Going forward, we have 2 immediate issues. One is, I had Martha Klein look at, remember that issue about do we have the authority to enact a lien as WPCA separate and apart from the town?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Now we have to decide that we're going to do it. Now we're gonna go through everybody that owes $2,500 and put a lien on their property, but that's not gonna do us any good until they go to sell the property. It doesn't get us any money.
Well, it does if we foreclose on the lien.
But then we have to go to court, and we have to file a foreclosure action, and we have to put the property up for sale, which is gonna cost us a lot of money. So we're gonna pursue that. We're also gonna pursue, taking a look at our ordinances about shut-offs and all that other stuff. In the meantime, we have to get United Water, because we have the right, every place we are supplying water, we have the right to go into the premises and look at this place. And I think we ought to engage United Water to go down there, maybe one of us, to accompany them, and go down and inspect the facility. Because we've never really gotten a handle on how many meters are down there, what is going on down there, and now there's a proliferation of businesses on top of the fact that the landlord is in a number which I hesitate to throw out, but it's a big number, it's $10,000 or something like that. So if he pays us $225 every quarter, you know, we'll all be dead.
Okay.
Yeah, and on the meter issue, I mean, one very practical matter is that we charge per meter charge, and so if they only get 1 meter,
Yeah, we're losing money.
yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. I agree. We just need to go down there, have a report on it, figure out what to do, and then I guess 2 things on the you know, payment plan. You know, $10,000. I mean, I would think we would want to have some kind of, in terms of guidelines, we would want to have some kind of payoff, reasonable payoff period. You know, maximum what, 1 year, something like that, which would kind of set the payment plan parameters a little bit. Well, then the other point I just wanted to make is maybe not for business property, but for residential property. If you talk about putting a lien on the property, that will show up on their credit report, and so that may get residential people to kind of move and pay off the bills, or at least work on a plan. So that may be a good enough threat without actually having to do it.
I have a question. There's one on here, bankruptcy, what happens there?
Don't know.
I don't know if we would have a preference, because.
Probably not protected, my guess.
Well, if he's
Until we put liens on property, we're probably not protected. So if it's in bankruptcy already, we're probably gonna be the last one.
You think we're a non-secured creditor?
I think so. Compared to a mortgage company or something such as that. I mean, if there's, just my guess, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, I'm just guessing.
That's all according to statute. You'd have to just look at the.
No, he's at Fox Run.
Yeah, it's a residence, I know about it. I am not interested in spending money going into bankruptcy court and hiring a bankruptcy lawyer and sitting there and chasing this thing.
No, but that would be a prime target for a lien.
It's too late.
It's
It's too late, he's already in
Once you
bankruptcy.
put the paper and file it in court, everything's done.
Yeah.
It's all
Right.
frozen. You're done.
So we kinda gotta wash that one probably, but some of these other ones, we probably should lean on them, just so
We have
we're
to look at our
covered.
policy about leaning, because on residences, once they get up about 300 or 400, you're probably gonna wanna put a lien on, because that's a sign that it's going downhill.
Well, I do know this for a fact. Back when Bruce Guzik was here and Barbara Schaefer happened to be the bookkeeper, they put liens that were anything on residents over $1,000.
For property taxes,
No,
or for us.
wastewater treatment.
Oh,
Yeah, and Earl used to say that he would help us and put the liens on, which he did, I think, on a couple of properties.
Yeah, I
So
think-
you can start by sending a notice of intent to lien and see if that doesn't create some.
But I guess you gotta find your points where you go do it. If it's a commercial property, is it gonna be $5,000? Is it gonna be $3,000? What's gonna be your warning point?
I would say if they're delinquent in paying 3/4 I'm talking about residential, 3/4, then you send them a letter of intent to lien. On a commercial property, I think you should put a dollar
Tell you what,
amount.
why don't we do this? Why don't you, Ken, and you, Mike, and you, Dave, talk about this between the next meeting as a subcommittee of the WPCA, come up with some recommendations. We're not gonna get anywhere tonight about whether it's
Right.
1,000 or 500 or 250,
Right.
which resonates
Right.
with the whole bit. We need to talk it through. We've got an issue, we've got 68,000, we picked up 22. I will talk to United Water about getting them on the premises so we can really see what's going on in Black Hammer LLC
Good idea.
and charge for the right amount of things, and then we'll take it from there. But it's an ongoing process, and we are gonna have to either do the liens ourselves or coordinate with the town that they will, once we tell them this is our policy, they will do the lien. But right now, we don't have that straightened out.
It's not in our rules and regulations.
not in our rules and regulations, and
Just asking.
usually, and that's what Martha Klein has said to me, well, doesn't the town do it for you? And I said, well, we're in kind of a discussion period about that. Okay. All right, I was gonna report on some recent developments, there are no, that haven't been covered, I'm gonna pass this out, if you can read it at your leisure. What this is, you know, we're in part of the nitrogen credit program, so we either owe money or we don't owe money, depending on how much pounds of nitrogen we dumped into the river, and we did not dump. We dumped less than we were permitted to dump, so somewhere on August 14th, 2012, we're gonna get the princely sum of $712 from DEEP under the nitrogen reduction program. So it has a bar chart, it has a list of the people on the left who are selling and the people who are buying, which means they have to pay. And then you see a nice little bar chart at the bottom of the Hartford WPCF, and you know, so the permit's 3 pounds and our annual average is 3, so we make out.
Cap and trade.
Cap and trade, let's all hear it for cap and trade.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful program. Now, there's also what I'm going to refer to as a committee that the town set up, and the committee is consisting of a couple of people from the WPCA, namely me and Steve, because we got named in the motion, so I guess we got to go. 2 people from the BOC, which is the BOC, 2 former select persons, and the current select man. And the select persons are Bill Baxter and Kate Rieger. We had a meeting, and there were some documents, and it's about our wastewater future. And we got another meeting on April 12th, which is essentially laying out the facts.
What do they call your committee?
We haven't really called it anything yet. There's a title on this piece of paper called New Hartford's Clean and Wastewater Future. The next meeting is April 12th at 4 p.m. in this room. I will attempt to give them as much information as we can, including Bill Michaud's February 1st, 2012 5-year projection plan. I'll try to share those documents with you folks ahead of time. Our current budget document, which Bill is going to talk to us about in a minute. It's an opportunity really to get the story out, because the story has to get out about the budget and the future and the plant and the capacity and the lack of demand and the lack of economic development. And in that regard, in the paper that was presented to the Board of Selectmen to justify this committee, there was a sentence that said, no system-wide assessments have ever been undertaken. So, I don't know whether that's true or not. I suspect I haven't seen
What
a
does that mean?
I mean, there's been no systematic assessment of your pipes. We know what our pipes are, but no system-wide assessment of how old they are, not old.
Are they talking about water, sewer?
I assume they're talking about both.
Every 5 years, we do a water supply plan,
Right,
which is a full assessment of the system, and it talks about miles of pipe,
right.
conditions of pipe, age of pipe. The last time we did it, we actually had I asked them to come up with capital improvement priorities. So
And did that happen, Bill?
it did.
Who undertakes that?
Yes. The last time we had Connecticut Water do the report. We are due to update this. But I mean, this gets at a larger point. I don't want to.
Yeah, just let me keep going, please.
Yeah.
Let's not go down that
Absolutely.
road, please. The fact is, we'll find it. The last one done by Connecticut Water.
Yeah, it's in the selectman's office. I've got a copy in my office.
Good. And did it cover the wastewater collection system as well?
No, it's a water supply plan.
Okay. So to that end,
The facilities plan was a complete assessment of the wastewater system.
when was that done?
It was done
2004.
Yeah, in order to design the
Plant, right. And that's also
we
on
did,
file.
we did smoke testing, we did,
Good.
we looked at users, we had a user assessment, we did several reports and studies.
And where is that?
Where would those reside?
The selectman's office,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, I have a copy in my office.
So we will-
As the
If I
chairman.
may,
I have a
because
copy, too.
I think this is important. Is this the kind of thing that would tell you what shape the sewer is coming down Main Street and those kinds of things?
At that
It'd
time.
give you data.
At that time, yeah.
Yes, it'd tell you, it'd give you data, but always, you know, there's always leakage in the system, there's it'll give you information about that, and we'll tell you what that specific pipe looks like, but it'll tell
They
you.
didn't camera the whole system.
We've had a study of this area up here, we've been studying this for 4 or 5 years. We've had various camera work
On just
done.
this one piece, but,
Yeah.
but not the whole
Not the
system.
whole system. But we have smoke tested and that kind of stuff, so.
Okay, so we have had some pretty extensive.
2004 for the wastewater collection system, sometime within 5 years for the water.
Yes, 5 or 6 years, I mean, we're due to update it again.
Okay, so one of the things that we have in front of us, besides the near-term and long-term financing of the system with respect to the upcoming debt collection spike that we're gonna have in 2013, and the upcoming payoff back to the town of our loan of $140,000 in 2014, not to mention us settling on a benefit assessment amount, not to mention us deciding what we're gonna do on the orders to connect, is to really look at the system and understand what kind of shape it's in periodically, what this is. So, Jason, in another part of his life, is working with the town of Tallinn through the water planet, and they have some folks called Tata and Howard who do what are called capital efficiency plans. So I talked to these folks, and they do just that. They do these updated plans, and they tell you what's rotten in Denmark and where kind of thing. So, it is important that we do an assessment of what we've got. I don't know what it's going to cost us. It's going to cost us something. I'm hoping that at the committee, since the committee is interested in the future, maybe the committee through the town will pay for a system-wide assessment. That would be a very nice thing to do. So I'm going to pursue Tata and Howard giving us a quotation. And I'm going to give them the old water supply plan because it gives them the miles and stuff, and I'm going to give them that wastewater collection thing that we did for the expansion of the plant so they can have the baseline data, and we'll get a proposal from them and anybody else that wants to come in and do a capital efficiency plan and an assessment of what we have here, because it's very important that we know and the entire town knows, because you can't plan for the future unless you know what's going on with your pipes. So they told me a lot of funny things, like a pipe in 1902 can be a better pipe than a pipe in 1971 when they've gone into other towns. So for instance, the pipe that was laid in 1902 is still working well, and one we put in 1971 has been leaking like a sieve. So we do need that assessment. So I'm going to pursue that and probably have them come to the next meeting. And I'm going to lay it on the committee.
Will they tell you the pipe is leaking, or do they gotta have it cambered?
They're not going to tell you the pipe is leaking. They're going to camera some of the stuff. They're going to look at the hot spots. They're going to put flow meters in some of the stuff. And Mike, Simsbury must do this the same thing.
We haven't done a town-wide yet.
Okay.
I'd love to. I'm just getting a camera that's supposed to be delivered in end of April, beginning of May.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a trail-mounted camera to look at all the stuff.
Right.
But it's going to take me 5 years to assess all my pipes.
Well, who goes around and fixes things when they break in the town?
It's a patchwork.
You just patch it up. If you find a problem area, you'll come in and you'll say, we run a jet truck, a high-velocity truck. Okay, we get through a pipe. Okay, what's the problem here? So sometimes we'll call Jack Farley in for a camera. Have them a day of camera, and we'll give them 10 different areas we want them to check. They'll run their camera up, they'll look. If we find problems, then we decide what we're going to do, whether we're going to
Yes,
patch in place or dig it up.
Yeah.
You know,
This
so
is, depending on the fiscal shape of the town, this is a common, everyday maintenance issue. New Haven does it. They have their own crews and trucks to do it because they've got such a huge user base and a $60 million budget every year. And that's what happens with infrastructure. You just got to keep up with it. Our problem is we don't have any money to keep up with it.
Well, A, we don't have any money to keep up with it, and B, we don't know what it is. We know that Main Street, in terms of the wastewater collection, has problems. The steep grant wasn't enough. They're still struggling with trying to get the Main Street repairs done. I know there's additional budgets in the town government budget that's up for discussion on April 10th to add to the remaining funds in the steep grant to complete the Main Street thing. We know the manhole around the corner here in Chatterley's has never been a real nice thing to do. It comes and it drops down to the main trunk line, and that's always having problems. We have the poor woman that, forget her name, Ginny Hoffman, used to come in here, and we used to have trucks down there every other night to pump it up. So this is key for us to know whether there's any money to fix it, but I think there should be, ask the committee that the town as a whole would want to know this, because we're certainly not in a position. I don't know what's going to cost, $10,000, $20,000 to do it. We won't know, but I think it behooves us to get a quote to do it. And I think they made a proposal to Tallinn last night on the water side. I don't know what the number is, and they're making a proposal to Tallinn next week to give them an estimate about a capital efficiency plan.
I sent them your way. We talked briefly about the mapping in town and how we've been walking around with Bud Butler so they can get a better hand. The problem was we couldn't find the manholes. And Ted has found all your manholes in town.
Yeah, and he put numbers on them.
After a year.
He spray painted numbers on them.
So now the next step would be for somebody like what you're talking about would be take that and put it on a map.
Is that because they're overgrown, a lot of them?
Yeah, that was the whole problem. It's not,
Well,
that was the whole problem.
You got that, and then you got, I know you got two out here that the state just asphalted over.
Yep.
So you,
Which is normal.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's a normal occurrence.
a system-wide assessment is
It's always-
definitely
He didn't GPS each manhole, he just found them, right?
we don't have it,
You don't have a
we would have,
GPS.
but we don't have
Okay,
one. But
alright.
that's what probably needs to happen next. Somebody go
Alright.
out with a GPS, stand on it, and then it'll be transferred to your mapping. And then that one portion of your system evaluation would be done. Because, Bud and those guys have been working on cammering, and we had the smoke test, we had that issue out across the street. And, you open up manholes and they're just full of rocks. There's no water going through them, they're just full of rocks. So, water's gotta be going somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna make the very same recommendation that you just made, coming into the meeting. When we talked, about what happened at the last meeting, and you said, that they wanna get up to speed on all of these different things, my initial reaction was, we've got enough on our plates without having to get a committee up to speed on all of, all the details of what it costs to run the system, where the problems are, all that kind of stuff. And my thought was, we've got data, we've got, a lot of data, we've got a lot of information. And if they want to take this information, compile the information and look into the future, that's great, but the question is who's gonna pay for that? We're very limited in the resources we can free up for that kind of thing, both in terms of volunteer time and in terms of consultant dollars. So, I would heartily endorse your proposal to have this kind of study done, but ask for some kind of funding, be provided for it, because I don't see it coming out of our budget. I don't see where we're gonna free that up.
No, it isn't there. So in the theory that it's always good to look ahead, it's always good to look at where you are now. So we're on the budget report that Bill prepared.
Okay. I took Bob's advice, which was to stop throwing so many numbers at everybody. And so I boiled it down. I ran.
Did you get this thing?
I did, I looked at them this afternoon, I printed them out even, I didn't bring them, I left them in the copy machine.
Okay, so I get a report out from, I got some, the register, or essentially our register from Lila, and every month Lila and Guy go through the bills, and any questions you have, we put them in a general ledger account. So I just ran the numbers for the first 3 quarters of this year. And if you look at these charts, the first one here is just our year-to-date revenue analysis. And what you'll see is the dark bars are the revenue we had projected for each quarter, and then the actual revenue. And as you can see, we're each quarter we're probably about 80–90% of the revenue we're expecting, but we're behind. And if you look at the year-to-date chart, the final one on the right, the final set of bars there, you can see that the difference there, if we were able to get caught up on our delinquent accounts, we would be close to meeting our revenue budget for the year. So that's a big issue that will help us out a lot. But bottom line, we're doing fairly well on our revenue targets. The next chart down there is our expenditures. That's not broken out by quarter, but rather by account. The water account, we're doing better than projected. And if you look at the second table, the second page, there are actual numbers in there. So,
What do you mean by general account?
the general account covers things that don't really cleanly fall into water or sewer. So,
If you look
like
on page
peers,
2, David, there's
auditors
three
report.
accounts. The general account is like 3 line items in the bottom.
Oh, yeah, okay,
So legal fees, things like that.
Sure.
That,
okay, got it.
So anyway, we're on the water side. We're about $23,000 below what we had projected for the year to date. On sewer side, we're very close to being at budget for the third quarter. And on the general account, we're ahead of the game, and that's mainly because we haven't really been using our consultants as much as we had projected. So bottom line is we're about $33,000 ahead of the game right now on the expenses, which is good because we're behind on the revenue, and so those are balancing out. And then this last chart here on the right is just essentially a look at our end of month balances in our account. So we started the year at about with about 90,000. You can't see that, but as you can see, we had a high point of over 150,000. Now we're at about $90,000 in our account.
Right, and that 90,000, Bill, when I look at that 90,000 number, I have been following on this little sheet that Mrs. Tuxbury gives me. I've been segregating about $6,000 a month into something, same thing that Ken did when he was chairman, called the Reserve for Loan Expansion, and that's about 60, I don't know what it is now, maybe 40 or 50,000. Is that in that bar being the March 12th bar of
Yes.
780,000? So putting that aside, we have a surplus, if you will, of about $20,000 on operating stuff, and the rest of it we're segregating to get to the 71,000 that we owe.
Right. Which is not a big surplus.
So I just want to point that out on the sewer side for a second, if I can. If you go into the sideways sheet with all the numbers on it, and you go into the middle block that says sewer, and you go down to the very bottom, general ledger number 8636, WWTP debt service, it says 2011-2012 budget, $71,370, okay? We paid that, because we paid it in September of 2011. We have another one of those due in September of 2012, the next year's budget, and then in September 13th, September of 13, we owe $122,000 for our principal and interest payment. So, in that year, July 1st, 2013, our rates, something weird has to happen to our rates, like they have to go way up, or we have to do a significant benefit assessment because we're going to have a spike of $50,000 in our debt service on the sewer side, which is why it's important, I think, to keep putting the facts out of where we are, because our current rates without augmenting them with additional users like Orders to Connect and et cetera, they're just not gonna lead us anywhere, you know? It's not gonna lead us anywhere good. So, but does everybody find this helpful, the way this is? Because I thought this was much easier to understand. I thank Bill for doing this, because it gives you a real snapshot on a quarter-by-quarter basis of what we've budgeted. And you're right, if we had the 70,000, the 68,000 that we've already picked up on the delinquents, the 24,000, if we get our collection rate up to 97%, like usual municipalities have on the property tax rate, you know, we really need to do that. So that's moving in the right direction. So.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's critical to get things flush by the time.
How are we gonna get that by next September when we have to get it from 28,000?
I don't know, maybe the subcommittee will come up with something.
Well, I mean, that's all part of the budget. I mean, we'd look to get.
That's up to you guys,
Do
okay?
a bake sale or something?
No, you gotta go down with, you know, you gotta pay a couple of guys a visit, you know what I'm saying?
No, we looked at that.
No.
We
But
looked at
even
that.
if we come even, let's say we got 100%, that's not gonna be enough to pay for our debt services.
No, it's not.
Well, right, because, and we looked at that in setting our rates for this past year, and we're gonna look at it again in April and in May, in setting our rates for next year, and the idea is that at the end of this year, we should have some money surplus. At the end of next fiscal year, we should have a lot more money in our account, and so we need to kind of build up. We need to set our rates so that we're bringing in more revenue than we're expending, so that.
Well, that means the rates are just gonna keep going north.
Yeah, they're gonna be high. And the way the only way to get the rates down, well, first of all, we need to, by instituting a benefit assessment that is not based on actually being physically connected to the line, we bring in these other accounts and we have another source of revenue to deal with this specific issue, which is the debt. Because the benefit assessment is set to cover the debt.
But I know that the benefit assessment is still, I know we call it a benefit assessment, but it just means a bigger check to all of the system users.
Well, right now, we're generating this revenue with our surcharge. And so we're gonna have to, unless we have a benefit assessment, I would say we just keep putting on the surcharge, and the surcharge may need to go up.
But still, that's just
Unless we expand,
Another word for a benefit assessment.
unless we expand the user base, in which case, we're not asking the same user base to generate another 50,000.
It still means, no matter what they say it is, it's the sewer rate, it's the benefit assessment, it still means a bigger check to the user.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our rates are gonna have to go up, continue to go up at a fairly high rate. No doubt about it.
So, I just want to summarize what's left on the agenda and make a suggestion. And what's left on the agenda are the Orders to Connect and the USDA funds. So if you just indulge me for a moment. The Orders to Connect, last time we were here, we spoke about, well, maybe we could do an Order Connect that said, and there's 38 of them. We have 38 people that are abutters. And we said, well, if you connect in the next 2 years, you can get a small one, and after that, it'll be a big one. Recall that? So I went to Bertha Klein and I said, can we do that? And they said, no. They said, the only thing you can do is change your connection rate for everybody. In other words, if you want to keep your connection rate at $150 and $250 for 2 units, which is what it is now, and you want to say it's going to be the same thing on July 1st, 2012, and then on July 1st, 2013, it's going to morph to $4,000 for everybody, that you can do, because then it's the same connection charge for everybody, and it gives those abutters a chance, same kind of thing that we talked about, a period of time to come on board. Now, that's not necessarily the formula, but that's a big issue for us and it needs a lot more discussion. Also, on the benefit assessment side, we have to go back and revisit the modeling that Bill did, and I'm sure we really haven't spent time individually with it, to February 1st, 2012, which is What if this happens? What if there's limited business growth? And what if there's a lot? And there's benefit assessments that range from $3,000 to $4,000 to $7,000. All those are interrelated with the USDA funds. And just to bring you up on the USDA funds, as you know, the project's over. However, there is approximately $455,000 in a checkbook at Northwest Community Bank with our name on it. The issue has become reconciling the ARRA reports, which Bill was filing, and the monthly reports that the town was filing. And there has been a discrepancy in those amounts. The Atlantic States Rural Water and Wastewater Association, of which we are a member, has put someone on the case, Diane Johnson, and she has come down to a reconciliation. The one remaining thing we have to see is what was charged to what. And when I say to what, I mean there are three sources of funding. One was the DEP grant, one was the rural development loan, and the third was the rural development grant. Not everything that qualifies under the grant necessarily qualified under DEP. So we have to kind of make a reconciliation of what DEP paid for, the particular items. And because they're done, they've closed the books at $1,003,620. And the question is, what did they really pay for? So if we can allocate certain pre-engineering costs and legal fees and one other item to that, and then we meet with rural development, and the drawdown order was as we thought it was, what we told it was, which was DEP grant, then RD loan, then RD grant. That will leave us with the $455,000 if we reach an agreement with the RD. That will allow us to spend that money on plant associated changes. So for instance, we heard about one of them tonight, Dave's analogy of the silver doorknob and the golden doorknob. We will have money to change that flow meter, but we would also hopefully get permission to use it for sewer extensions. That's important because, as you remember, we're on the DEP priority list for 1213 for $1.2 million for Cottage Street. That's 25% grant, but 75% loan. If we have to pay all of it as loan, it's about a $900,000 loan at 2% over 20 years. And when you figure it out over the approximate 48 units that are on Cottage Street that would be affected, it comes out to about a $21,000 assessment per unit to be paid off over 20 years, which is going to be pretty impossible for those people. To get back to Dave's point about some of these numbers just don't work. So we've got some big decisions to make, and what I'm suggesting is maybe we hold a meeting that we call a workshop meeting for ourselves that is limited just to looking at the data on the orders to connect, looking at the issue of the benefit assessment, and also by that time we would know the answer on the remaining USDA funds, if they're in play or not.
How far away is that answer?
We're down, the numbers are right. The only thing that Diane Johnson of of Atlantic States Rural is to do is next I intend to go over the monthly reports to reflect the ARRA reporting methodology, and that report will show a balance, and if it does, it'll be the 455. I have called DEP, and they have not gotten back to me yet about what was chargeable within the 1 million. So if the legal fees and the pre-engineering can be allocated to that, we should be in really good shape. I should have that shortly. So what I'm suggesting is maybe 3 weeks from tonight, we come back at a workshop meeting, and it's not a regular meeting, it's open to the public, but it's a workshop, and all we do is share information. We spin these things around in our head about what we're really gonna do with the orders to connect and what we're really gonna do with the benefit assessment, because when you look at Bill's modeling of February 1st, 2012, most of the models assume a benefit assessment no later than July 1st of 2012. So something's got to give. So I don't know, does everybody feel that they can invest the amount of time to come back 3 weeks or at some point and just lay all this out and just spend some time and try to come up with something?
I can do that.
Yeah.
What I would suggest though, could we start earlier than 7? Maybe,
Sure. I mean, I don't know, Mike, can you get out early?
I can get out anytime. I got 24 years in. I have plenty of time.
What can they do to you, right?
No, I can get out at 11 o'clock, noon, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
6 o'clock.
well, no, I wasn't thinking, mid-afternoon, I was thinking just cutting back an hour and a half or
Right.
something.
Can we say like 5-ish, 5:30-ish on the 26th? Can we check our calendars?
Joe, what about you?
It's still light out,
I can make it at 5:30.
5:30? Steven?
Yeah.
Kenny?
I can do that, I just shave a half an hour off.
Okay, let's meet at 5:30 on February 26th, and we will get everybody.
On February 20th?
April.
Yeah, we're at the.
Yeah,
25th?
yeah, I wish I could go back to the.
What
other
day?
No, we don't wanna go
Just-
back.
That's a Thursday. We can make it any time.
No, are you sure?
All right, I'm just gonna have to check my calendar.
You said the
that's all.
Well,
25th?
today's the
No, wait,
5th, right?
You said the 25th?
Yeah, I was wrong.
I
So
can't be it, I can't be here if it's the 25th.
26th.
It would be,
But-
what about the 26th, Kenny?
It would.
But
We
is
done-
is the 26th a Thursday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's 5/12/1926. Yeah, it would be the 26th of
Are you sure? Because I got a zoning meeting on the 25th and they usually,
Wednesday.
or whatever. it doesn't
April
make-
26th is this Thursday.
Yeah.
And I have a zoning meeting on a Wednesday.
You know, I don't wanna jump the gun on any of those issues, but what's the argument for not getting these guys to hook up for a nominal amount of money, and then we get them on the bills, and we get them into the system? It's not quite 10%, 38 out of 423, it's not quite 10% additional users, but, you know,
It's important.
it's gonna help.
Well, there's nothing, there's lots of, I mean, the only thing you would do is that you would have what we thought was there would be an incentive to hook up. In other words,
We got an incentive, it's called an order to hook up, we got the right to order them to hook up.
yes, we do. And when we said that at this meeting, we had some blowback. We said, well, we'll give them a couple of years to hook up, we'll cut them a break.
That's not the problem. If you don't hook them up almost instantly,
Mhm.
your drop dead date is coming pretty quick and we're gonna be behind the 8 ball with the money that we owe for our debt service.
Well, it's not gonna solve the whole problem.
Well, it will help, but,
Starts.
you can't, if you say two years, people will stretch it out to 3 years.
So I understand it, and the comments that were made was if we give them the 90 days, which is what we have now in our regulations, and is within our statutory authority, the comment that was made was people have never been made to hook up, and they would not have the available funds to come up with a lateral in the short term, right, even 90 days, so that we would give them a longer period to come forward, or not. But I'm not espousing any particular position about the orders to connect.
Well, I didn't mean to jump the gun on the
Yeah.
issue, but
So I think it's a scenario, we could do that. It is an absolute scenario, we could just enforce the connections as they are, 120, 150, and 250. And there's 38 abutters.
And where it's gonna make a difference, I mean, if we get a benefit assessment in place, it's not gonna make a difference, whether they hook up in 90 days or 5 years, because
Yes,
we're
there's
gonna
still
have the
gonna be
authority to put a benefit assessment on these properties. Where it's gonna make a difference is in the rates that we're gonna need to charge in order to operate the system. And pay off these debts, and pay off that the debt, the amount we owe to the town, which is not a capital expense.
Right. Okay, so we'll get together as much information as anybody has in their electronic databases and we'll get it out there to everybody. And, we should come prepared to spend several hours on the 26th trying to
Are
make some
you,
decisions.
I know it's a big job, but how are you gonna get all that information to the
Committee members?
committee members?
Well, I have bills
Not
and
us, not us, I meant this other committee.
by the 12th, well, I have, if I can get the two things that we talked about, the status reports, and I have Bill's February 1st, 2012 benefit assessment analysis, and I also have our 5-year rate analysis assessment. So I'll have that electronically, and I think what I need to do for the 12th is to really extract it, make it a little less numbery, and put together a PowerPoint for the group. I'm gonna try to do that. Steve and I will go there and do the best we can.
And dig up the stuff in there about the sewer assessments and.
Yeah, I think, well, do the thing about the prior look backs.
That's what I mean.
But we do need a new look back. We need a new thing. We need.
No, I
yeah,
understand, but
right.
it says there, you know, nothing's been done, and in fact, we do this, so.
Oh, sure, yeah. Right, so we'll talk about getting your copy or their copy or whatever. I think Town Hall's probably closed tomorrow, it's Good Friday, I think it's on holiday.
It is?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
closed tomorrow.
Many people have holidays
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Most public municipalities are closed. Private is open. But yeah, I had that case. It's a case of religion. I hate to bring it up and hold it. Okay, so I think we've exhausted our agenda.
What is
And ourselves.
customer's request?
Oh, I forgot that. Okay, we have 3 things there. Excuse me. Thank you, Kenny. Mr. Fiore asked that we revisit the action that we took with respect to the relief that we gave him at a prior meeting. Remember, we had a motion, and then we took another motion, and we passed that motion. He wanted us to revisit it. And I told him we would revisit it.
That's for Tony's Pizza.
That's for Tony's Pizza.
We
To
would,
build it.
we would consider revisiting.
What did we give?
I don't, the minutes aren't, we gave him.
Give him money back over 3
A
quarters,
credit.
then they get credit of some
Right, he didn't
kind.
think the credit was big enough.
Yeah, I think it was 2 quarters that he was over, and we gave him credit for 1 quarter. It's about half of it.
Well, I don't remember, we'd have to have the data in front of us to be able to make a decision.
That, for him, we would, yes.
Okay, so we'll put it on for our May meeting. There's another fellow that we have to take up in May. He's, it's a more traditional type of thing. He's on Main Street. He has, they went and inspected. He had 2 months at a certain level, 1 month at a very high level, the next month at the old levels, and what it was, he has a leaky toilet that month. And, you know.
Well, it's the same thing.
He's in the ballpark, so we need
Okay,
to get his data.
It's the same thing, if he plays his trump card now, then he'll lose it later on, so.
Right.
So let's get the data and
Yeah.
then we'll go
And then
forward.
the third, yeah,
Didn't we agree to that?
not for this guy, we
I thought we
did,
agreed for somebody that had a leaky toilet. Oh, is it over
Yeah, we
here?
did.
it was on the major apartment unit.
We did.
Okay,
Yeah, we did that one.
okay, but this is a different one.
This is a different,
Oh, okay,
this is a
Different customer.
different one.
okay.
And then there's a customer, on High Street, and he owns a residence, and it's a very, it's not a big residence, but it's a giant yard. And he wants to know whether we can install another water meter for irrigation. Because he's paying, as you know, we pay on the inflow, not on the outflow. So his sewer bill is really big, even though he's not, you know, using the sewer very much. What he's using it for is to water the lawn. So it seems like a reasonable,
He needs to buy
request.
another meter.
He needs to buy another meter. So
Yeah.
subject, he follows the rules and he gets another meter and we get another meter fee. Is
Then
there
you
any
take it
sense of
off.
what we can do with this guy?
That would be
How
similar
does
to
he
me,
say
similar
it?
to with me,
Mm-hmm.
on the ice business.
Yeah,
99% of my water is used for ice,
Mhm.
and I'd be paying that. If I was hooked up, I'd be paying all my ice water usage towards the sewer, which I only would use 1%.
But he pays for the new meter.
Well, he pays for the new meter, then he would be paying,
He'd pay a water charge for
He'd
that
be
meter,
paying
that
water
was
charge for
irrigation.
that
and
meter.
But
he'd
he
be
could
paying-
deduct that off his sewer bill.
Yeah.
We use water meters for commercial use,
Mhm,
and if somebody wants to take their irrigation off,
mhm,
they need to put a meter in.
okay.
We typically don't use the quarter from June through September, because that's a majority of the irrigation.
Mhm.
But that's what we told them, if you wanna take your irrigation off, like Hartford's huge, they've got an incredible amount of irrigation. We said if you want that money off, you're gonna have to put a meter in and take off that number, so you can deduct it from your meter
Okay.
coming in. So I think that's what he's gotta do.
Okay, so
That's
is
the fairest way to do it.
there a consensus that we'll tell United Water to work it out on that basis with them?
Yeah.
To that effect?
so moved.
And I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying
Aye.
aye. Motion carries. I think that's it. Thank you for that catch, Kenny. So we took care of that gentleman, and then we'll get the other two back up here in May. And we'll see everybody on February 26th.
April.
April.
26th.
Why
are you back in February?
What's wrong with February?
Nobody wants to go back to winter,
It's a crazy one.
even if this winter wasn't that bad. I
Oh,
don't
we're a
want
lot of
Nice.
stress.
Well,
All right, motion to adjourn. Mr. Rosengren makes a motion, it's seconded by handwriting. No, everybody in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
what time?
I'm
It
Jason.
is 8:37.